go.
Okay, so what happens, the steel comes in through this door here, in the strip form, right here. We'll bring it in here with the crane.
So this is now the blade.
We're in the blade plant now.
Okay.
So what happens, it comes in through here. By the way, that's a piece of black walnut that the fellow's going to make. He's going to cut it through here, and he's going to make 2 end tables for his living room. He's got a huge living room.
Okay.
Fine, I don't care. Anyways, the blades come in here in big rolls of steel like this. And they drop, this is a carrier bin, this is a feeder bin. And it's disconnected right now because I've got a whole new computer control coming in for this punch. They just run through the punch. Now we're going to use the punch for specialty stuff. We're not going to use it for main production because it's too slow.
Okay.
But then it goes through the shear, which is a hydraulic shear.
Sorry, I understand.
Over there. And then from the shear, it goes over to that bench. And that bench is, I'll take it on this side. This is computerized welding. So what happens here is we put the blade in both. When we shear the blade, we've got to bring it together to weld it. It comes in here, it's welded, it's clamped, and then we just select which of the programs we have in here, which are about 30 of them. Just hit the button, and it turns it on, and that's it, done. And once it's done there, we grind down the bead to flatten it out, and then it comes to this station, and this to make sure the tension across the blade is even all the way across, so there's no ripples. Okay. These blades have been used and resharpened already. So then the blade comes from there as a whole loop, and then it comes onto this machine. And what this machine does is put the teeth on. This is a computerized swedger. We just drop it in there, turn it on, select what teeth, what pitch, what we want, hit the button and let it go. And it just runs round and round on the slides, and when it's done, it shuts off, and then we take it from there, and it comes over here. It's not a manual machine. This is a cam automatic machine. It's not computer controlled, it's cam operated, and it sharpens the teeth so that it makes that machine put the teeth on here, but then it sets the gullet in here on this profile, and it just gives a little bit of a sharp on the edge from the swedge tooth. When it's all finished there, then it goes to this machine, which is fully computerized this way. And what happens on this machine, there's 2 grinding wheels up inside. They're about $800 a set. And what they do is to make sure all the teeth coming all the way down here, they're all exactly parallel on each side, plus or minus 1/1000th of an inch, or 0.02 millimeter. And that makes sure the blades are clean, clear when they cut. You've got a nice smooth surface, and you don't have a bunch of what they call riffles.
Right.
And the wood smooth.
Okay.
So you don't have to do what's called skip planing.
Right.
So once the blades are done, they come from here. Oh, I should explain. We're doing different size blades up to 14 inches. They go from 8 inches and up on this machine for sharpening, and from 4 inch up, from 6 inch down to 1.5 or 2 inches, they go on that machine, and then they're straightened on the other one over there. We just don't have any going right through there now. I just have a bunch of junk stacked on it. This is the head saw.
Okay.
The blade goes, now they see the crane, here's the lifter for the crane, and it carries the blade right up on there, and then we just slide it up onto the wheels, which are 72 inch wheels, I think it's 84 inch wheel. And then for the other end, they just go straight out these doors. They had this all added to the mill. This wasn't here before. So then it runs down there and then inside for the head saw. And of course, you're in the head saw here. That's the resaw down there. There's 2 sets of sawing operations we go through. Now, what slowed us down was the insurance company.
Wanted the metal clad.
Fire.
Okay.
And the other thing is it cuts down on the static, so that we have no static discharge, because we have a lot of sawdust.
Okay.
And these are all stuff we've cut. Anything you see around, it's all been done here.
Okay.
And this is a deck we put in, so the blades must never touch anything with steel. If you notice, it's all hardwood floor. That was all plywood with a beautiful carpet on it. Well, the carpet went to the burner, and I spent 2 weeks laying the hardwood floor. 2,500 square feet in there. So this is our storage for now. We had a lot of the big flood in here. I bought a computerized conveyor from a company, because it had 2 blades called a 16, 18 feet every 3 seconds, the same as the head saw. That's 600 volt, and that right now runs the band plant and the main plant for now.
Okay.
I'll find another one and put it in later. The one we had blew, and it wasn't worth repairing. So we're just turning this in. This is going to be a millwright shop. That can be whatever width you want, and we have 100 different blade configurations for it. This next spring. There's
So they've been through the debarker at
Yep,
this point?
Yep.
Okay.
So now they're ready to go through that on the head saw.
Okay.
So the kicker fires them this way. This is the control console. It's all computerized in there. And he's got a, just touches the buttons for the size of the log or the board he wants. And he just, the saw, the bunkers move automatically to whatever he calls for width or height or whatever. He sets all that, and it just, away it goes back and forth. And he controls it just like, there's two controls on there, just like flying an airplane. And we have cameras in there now, so he sees what's going on in the mill.
Okay.
So he's aware if there's a pile up, a jam or whatever, he spots it right away. And over here, they've just put the blade on. So there you are. There's the wheel. See, it's a pretty good sized wheel. And this thing, you can feel them. They're pretty sharp. Just like your kitchen knives, just like razors. And it cuts both ways. So over here, well, here's the carriage here. What happens, your carriage, you can see your blade from here. You always have to keep an eye on it. But there's your carriage, and again, from one end of that to the other, say there's an 18-foot log, it's done in 3 seconds. I mean, it moves. Really, we'll be running this late this afternoon. And what we're doing over here is as they come off, the bunkers move ahead, and then the boards fall off. So he cuts this way, and a board falls off, and he's cutting the other way. While that board's moving, another one's falling off behind him. So it's just going swish, 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 just like that, back and forth. They just keep coming off once he's squared. So it's pretty efficient. Now, whatever boards come off that have to be what we call edged, that is, you have the round, see the round edge here?
Okay.
Well, we don't want that. We want it squared on the side, so we don't put a 3-inch through there. So what happens, they're transferred on here. You see that little black flap there? As the board goes by, it hits that flap, and then just behind it, in the slot, there's a gate. And the gate flies up, stops it, the table, the chain is running, picks up the board, brings it over to here, and the operator, he just shuffles the board, drops it in here, away it goes. He just, all computer control. Don't have to work with this anymore. But if that fails, we can just drop the pin and we can keep going. So we're not cornered. So this was just added recently, and then we've done the same thing over on the other side. And now the big boards, if they don't need touching, what happens here, Jackie, is they shoot right through. You can see right from here. If you come over here and see it, you can see they go right through the handle here. Then he sees it on his cameras right here above you.
Right.
He sees it scrap. He sets the gate up. Just puts the button. The gate jumps up, and whatever scrap drops into that chute, it falls down into the conveyor, and off it goes to the chipper. You'll see a chain drive over there. The good boards carry through. See that conveyor over there?
Uh-huh.
They just keep right on going. Now, let's say that anything on the left is automatic scrap, because that's the zero side of the edger for the left-hand side. Now, let's say it's a wide one, and we don't want to lose it. This is, by hitting the button, this drops down, and the extra piece will drop on there. This flips up, brings it back in this conveyor, and then it goes through and it's re-edged again. And then whatever scraps drop to the left and right, it carries right through. Meanwhile, over here, don't step on the roller. And then it just comes through here, the gate goes up, and it drops down, and again, it goes into the chute. And I put this in because if we didn't have this, we would lose 30% of good lumber. We would lose it. It would go into the chips, and there's no money in chips. So that's why I stuck it in. And it's all operated from over there from the operator. He's got a foot pedal, he just hits it, flips it up, flips it down, and it just comes back and it just goes in a circle. We've done the same thing over here. Let's say a special board comes through. When we have to put it into resaw, there's another transfer table. Like this one's going that way. That transfer table over there is coming this way. And then it goes through that big saw over there. That's the resaw down in the end there, the blue one. And I'll take you around after. There's Mario LaCroix.
Hi, Mario.
Mario's our general foreman and sawyer. He's the mastermind of the place.
Okay.
We have a little plate we got to put in on this side because sometimes it catches. So these are little fine tuning things,
Right.
so we don't have to run here and clear anything. And this chain drive, these do not touch the chain. The board, as soon as the board hits it, the weight's picked up, and this thing just takes off like a bullet. A saver for us. It was on a airlift up and down, so if they felt it was scrap, they would drop it and it would go down. We don't need that. It's a waste of time, so get rid of it. So we just welded in the stanchion, that's the end of it. And now it comes through as it should. We don't need two belts.
Because you're getting rid of the crap much earlier.
All done now, all done back there.
Right.
And a two belt, so we're going to disconnect some of this and connect it as one belt. And then we can get rid of that drive. The one drive here will handle it all. So these are just little things. Also, we didn't have these guide bumpers in. So we'd come along and the board would be off just a little bit, be jammed here, jammed there. It was a nightmare, absolute nightmare. So anyways, as we move along, these are turtleback chains. So the boards land on it and they don't damage the board.
Okay.
So then what happens here, we've got gates. If we have to send something over to resaw, the gates jump up and it just goes that way and it's off to the resaw.
But how does it get up on top of the conveyor belt? Something lifts it? Like this whole thing lifts?
No, it kicks from here. It just kicks right from here. Now, if you notice, you see on the last, see the rollers over there, the spiral? The spiral on the roller? Well, what happens is the spiral, we're going to be putting the same spirals here. We won't need the kicker anymore. So when it hits here and the gate goes up, the spirals just push it over.
But it pushes it right up into that white...
No, it lands on the turtleback. And then the turtleback here picks it up. It just pushes it off the roller this way.
And it goes underneath this
Yeah, it goes underneath.
Okay.
That conveyor should have been a little higher, but we may lift it up another 6 inches. That's the sort. It goes right outside.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll show you that in a few minutes. But what happens over here is everything comes down to here. And from here, this is our, see, a turtleback transfer table so it doesn't damage the lumber. It's very smooth. The boards fly out, they land on here, and then they start going that way. Now over there, these are our trimmers. See that yellow thing hanging down with a ski on it? Well, just to the right, we're under the yellow section, there's a big rotary blade. It goes through there, goes through the trimmer, and then it drops down the ramp and then outside on the green chain outside. Okay. Now I'd mentioned the bull edger. With the bull edger, the bars that are sticking up, they drop down and they convey it to another conveyor and it shoots it through to the other room to where the bull edger is. So I'll take you down and we'll show you where the conveyor goes and then we'll go look at the resaw.
Okay, go.
They have sent people in here to see the mill and for training of the people of what a mill should be. So
because it's all painted according to standards, safety standards, which a lot of mills don't have that level of.
That's Mario getting stuff ready.
That's a big generator.
Look behind it.
That's an even bigger generator.
That's a big V12. That's our big pussycat. And that runs the mill. That's one of the starter motors for it. That's electric start to gas start. So if we don't have any air, we start that one up and that'll run it, turn it over, and all the cooling from this engine goes into that engine to make sure it's all nice and warmed up. And then it's we crank it over, but mostly we start it up on compressed air. And this is the extra oil system I put in, and all these gauges tell me what the pressure is off of each filter.
So how much oil do these, or they run on diesel, right? So how much do they consume?
This is a test barrel we've been doing to find out. We ran from there last night, well, right where this mark is, down to about here in about 5 hours, 6 hours. This doesn't burn very much fuel. This is a very economical generator. It's up to 300 kilowatt. Here's all the power panel I put in over here, over this side, to run it, and it runs 220 and 480 and 600. And it runs, when this is turned on, I go through that, throw that transfer switch, we're offline right there. And then we start the big one up and operate the mill.
Which means that the hydro savings are
Enormous,
Yeah.
enormous. Yeah. We could not afford to run on 600 volt here on hydro. Couldn't do it. The diesel is far more economical, and if a storm happens or anything, doesn't matter, we just keep right on going. It doesn't bother us. A lot of the mills here, they hadn't modernized, and then the economy went down, and they shut down, but they don't have the funds to modernize. It's too costly, so they just shut down. That's it. You know, some were bandsaw plants, and some were rotary, like blade, rotary blade, and they're just not efficient. They make lots of sawdust, but you're not in the sawdust business.
Right.
And I mean, they're so wide a curve that after 5 or 6 cuts, you just lost several boards, and you're not.
That's not sustainable.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So we've. That's where our blade, with how we can control it. We get a nice narrow curve and a clean cut,
Right.
and so it just cuts down. When people get the lumber, because it's rough cut, they don't have to do what's called a deep skip planing. They can just do a skim,
Right.
or let it go through till it's kiln dried, and then run it through.
Because what we saw, I mean, even the first cut boards come out beautiful and fairly smooth, right? Yeah.
So we'll wander around and see what. You'll show you what's next.
Okay.
Knife grinder for the chipper.
Okay.
The chipper takes some pretty big blades, and that's a rotary type knife type. So that you don't send them out to grind, and we do our own sharpening right here. It comes through here, and what happens? There's a sawdust sorter right here. It's actually, you see the holes in the. This is a big shaker, and this is all shaking, and it moves the boards along. The sawdust drops through here, goes up there over to the sawdust pile, and then the boards and scrap go through the chipper.
After you.
So now you can look at the business end as it's coming through. So the resaw comes down these rollers.
Okay, just a sec, and again, just, all right.
So now you're at the business end, and on the resaw, it's coming down those big rollers. If we have to redo it, then the gates come up and the spirals will push it back onto the first belt and send it back, and it'll come through again. Now from the head saw way through the other end, that's where it comes out, is this chute here. And then from the edger, it comes off of that end. So everything comes out here onto the transfer table, and it comes through here. And this is known as a trimmer line. So as they drop from there onto this belt, this picks them up. Then these pegs, they square the board up, depending what the length is, and it's pushed that side, the blade over there, or the blade over here, cuts either end of the board, it trims them off, so you may have a 8-foot, 12-foot, or whatever, and it trims it off accordingly. Or you see, well, here's a piece of select of 6 feet, well, the part that isn't select, you chop it off, it drops down that chute, or there's a chute just on the other side there. You see the conveyor underneath? Well, the scrap just goes out, drops in there, and heads to the chipper. So there's really nothing has to be touched, just the operation from here. And over here, that's the blade that goes on here. This is where it drops down onto the transfer. Now we put rubber mats in there, and the reason we put those mats in there is when the lumber drops down there, it's starting to move pretty fast. And let's say it's a little bit cockeyed going down, well, it may turn and jam. So when it hits the rubber mats,
It stops it.
it slows it down and keeps it straight. And very ingenious, Mario's father came up with that idea. So then, if we're not sending it out there and we're bringing it over here to the bull edger, this gate comes down, so it's air operated, it comes down, it's controlled from over there or over here, and it brings it up on the turtle back, drops it onto this conveyor, this is the drive for it, then it brings through here, now this again, computer controlled from here, onto, now this is the new edger, and what we have are the bull edgers. Now what this would do is, in this particular machine, there's two motors over there, they're synchronized for 100 horsepower, but a whole series of saws are lined up. So let's say you've got flooring, it's 4-inch flooring, there may be a whole gang of blades, so something coming through here, say is 12 inches wide or whatever, well when it goes through each of those saws, it'll slice it instantly into those narrow boards for flooring or for pallets or whatever. And then it goes through there, it drops on the slide, drops onto the conveyor belt that we're putting down the bottom, and then shoots right back out to the transfer line and then or onto the green chain, and it's outside. Now we've had some second thoughts. We might add a small, because it's a dedicated product, we might put a conveyor in here and send it out on that line.
Okay.
But that's, we want it all under one roof, so it makes more sense to keep it over there.
Right.
Yes, there's a long transfer over, but that's just a conveyor, that's nothing.
Yeah.
And again, everything from here that's chopped, that's scrap, there's your conveyor below. It just takes it over, drops it in the other one, and off to the chipper.
Keeps everything clean underneath.
Yep. So that's, well, this has just got to be finished off. And these are some of the, long we want certain lengths, well it just chops it and it goes through. So say you have 4 foot, 3 foot, or whatever, say a bunch of boards, those are okay. But it's only 3 feet of good board. Well, he trims off the trash and then it goes through.
But like you said, I think a lot of the operators didn't change their processes or the way they did business or anything to be able to cope with what the economy was doing. And you're doing what it takes to keep running
Well, this is,
and be profitable, you know.
well, the place does look a little different with the steel in here now. Now we want to cut a window out in there so we can see outside to the green chain, but also bring a little bit of... Use it like that.
Okay.
And of course it tips up a little bit and we've got a log jam like you never saw. Oh, it's been lots of little stuff we've learned.
Well, you go through it, right? You don't find all the bugs in the system until you run through and something happens and you think, oh, I need an improvement here, right? Or
Well, when I first came in here, Jackie, right here, where this railing was, you had to do this around here because it was right there. See the...
oh, that's where it ended.
Right there.
Oh my
and
goodness.
And something happened. You had no escape. And then you had to run along here. And a lot of this wasn't there. It was over here. So it was really dumb. So we added this.
Right.
Now what we think we're going to do is we're just going to take this, move it right to the wall, and have the whole thing walkway right over. Get rid of this nonsense so it's always clear. And over here, we might just put in, at that point, floorboards to clear over the conveyor and just have it better access. That's all. And see, in here, this was all enclosed in and you couldn't really see through. It was about this high and they had a steel post there. They just finished re-welding this yesterday because what had happened, we had a post over there in the way, and then originally where that control panel was, the way it was all situated, it's all I could do to get through. And if something happened, you weren't getting out in a hurry. And you had nowhere to go that way or squeeze that way, and you wouldn't be able to go this way, and you may have to run across there in front of the line. There was no safety.
No. You've got the visibility now of the whole operation.
Well, we got more cameras coming in, another 8,
Right.
and they're going to cover the whole building, so we can see everywhere and everything we have to do.
No, it's very well lit, I think, and
Well, we have new lighting coming in later.
visibility's- oh, really?
When we can afford it now. I mean, this lighting is okay for now, but there's a new LED lighting that's about 1/5 the cost of operating, but also about 3 times the light.
Wow.
So we're going to go with that when we can. Right now, we're fine. Machine. This is another one we have. That'll be eventually over on the other side. It used to be sharpening all the blades here. We've cannibalized a lot of stuff to get over there. And this is for sharpening another type of knife we have on the blades. Another type of blade we use on the for the small blades. And it's just a grinder surfacing machine, diamond wheel. What you're looking at here is black cherry and red oak and all kinds of different wood here.
No.
That was cut on none of this wood was cut here. That was cut on a small wood miser, narrow blade, and you can see they chatter through.
Yeah.
So you get that horrible finish. So you lose a lot in planing. And here's the planer right here. I've got it ripped open because I'm putting a new set of knives in it. The knives were shot. So here's a $100 set of blades we're going to put in. It gives a nice plane. But here's the molder. And you can see the heads in here. See the molding heads? That you saw for that crown molding?
Oh, yeah.
Now these move back and forth. We have different sizes and different shapes, about 100 different sets. And these are the side parts to do in this case, the cornering, so it fits up at a 45 degree. So it planes and molds all in one shot.
So basically, this guy put his equipment here, and he's going to have his little molding business on site,
Yep.
and then pay the sawmill some
Great.
rent or something for
And
use of
if
facility.
customer comes to buy stuff, well, we will work a little bit of a percentage from what he sells.
Right.
So
No, that's excellent. I think
it's
you know,
win-win.
because
It's win-win for
Ah.
us. Steel for a blade. There's enough there for 2 blades, 3 blades, and that'll go over to the other side. We
Okay.
cut into the blades,
Okay.
12-inch. And it's a little. Okay, this is our shaker screener for all the chips and the sawdust. The sawdust is sorted out on the other side. And this here grades the chips to one size and smaller. All the larger ones are returned and recycled till they come down to drop through the chute. And then from there they go out into our chip pile. So everything in the chip pile is basically of a grade range and nothing larger than that. So it's just a consistency. The sawdust.
Pick up a handful of it. Let's see the grade of it.
You see, it's all.
Lovely.
You get the occasional long one in there, but most of the time it's all about the same.
yeah.
Computerized conveyor I'll be putting inside the door, running back, because we're going to have the bull edger drop down the chute and then send it back, and then the sensors will tell us whether short or long when to drop them on the conveyor, because some are too short. We want them to land on this side, land on all the chain, otherwise they would miss it and fall down. And this is, you see some of these beams, some are select. There's actually your hands on select down at the other end there and on the other side. Some are 8 foot. If you notice, quite a few of them are, most of the stack is 16 foot. And this was from the cut through that we sent that order on Dunrobin Road. Okay. So there's 72 of these, mainly long ones. Actually 36 of each size for that post and beam. So that's.
Now, did you start the machinery just to cut that order, or do you wait till you have like a bunch of them together?
We were already cutting when they phoned.
Okay.
So
that was perfect then.
Yeah,
right?
and this one, that order over there, and what's around. Same with the order on the end, and then the order on the other side, and then the far one over there. Now, if you see, it's all stacked. You can see right through the stack.
Yes.
And that's just letting the air go through to dry the lumber. So it air dries and takes a lot of the moisture out, maybe from 80% or whatever it was down to say 40, so it makes it a lot lighter.
So basically, if you were to ship something, you'd inspect every single board to make sure that there is no inferior quality
Got to be
in
graded.
there.
Yeah. Has to be graded and certified.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no scrap going through. The customer says, this is what I want, that's what they get. You send something other and you don't see another order. And you might see that the order you billed for, they would take, let's say it's 30% trash, well, it would be 30% off the bill. It would be that simple. And you pay the freight on it, need it. So they're, it's So it's not, those games aren't worth anything. They play those, they're going to pay for it.
And it's amazing that people even try that.
Well, my thought is, you got a good customer, stick with them, support them, and give them everything, what they want. That's what they ordered, give it to them.
Yes,
That's what they're paying for.
absolutely.
And this again, some of our racks. I don't know where these wagons came from, but they look like old postal wagons, you know that?
Postal wagon.
Yeah. Remember in the post office, they used to have wagons dragging mail around? And a few weldments put on them, but look, they look exactly like that. Anyways, you've got 4 or 5 of them. Oh, the one thing when I first came here, on the other side of the berm, see where the white paint stops on the line there, Jackie? Well, that's where the line stopped coming out of the building. And there's no way we could work with that.
No, okay.
Impossible. So we moved it out to the end. It's now 100 and some odd feet.
And you just have to finish painting the extension.
And then putting the extension over it, and then out where that steel rack is, that's about where the roof is going to run out that far.
Okay.
Because we have to have the loader being able to come in underneath and out, and it'll cut off any wind or rain.
And
I'll give you the whole scoop here. 4x4. The first stack is poplar, the next one's white pine.
you got any?
This is all hemlock right here, this whole stack. That's white pine. This is Lombardy poplar, white poplar. And this makes an incredibly good furniture wood. Now what you're looking at here, you see when everyone says a 2x4, that's a real
That's a real 2x4, yeah.
That's the full thing. This is the green chain where all the lumber comes out. When we're doing things inside, it comes through the slot and then right out here. Now later this summer, if you see the blue line on the wall, that'll be the outer edge, and then the center will be here, and then the same side over to here. This will all be enclosed. So we want to keep the weather off the chain and the fellas working. Same in the winter. And then we have the coveralls on the other side. It's 72 by 100. It's going over in here. And I'm negotiating another one, which is 62 by I think 128. And that's fully enclosed. The other one I have here is open to let the air go through to keep the things drying. And the other one will be enclosed, so we'll use that sort of as a
Storage?
No, as a semi kiln to help accelerate. You can't take the moisture out too fast, or the wood will warp.
So like a solar kiln
Well,
almost?
pretty well. We might hook a boiler up to it for the winter. That lumber, those logs there are all black walnut. That's 2002. The Selecting 1 and 2, that's on Dunrobin Road. So that's the leftover. The needed X's are there. These beams are scrap. One split and one. This is white pine, and that one's, as you can see, is no good along the center. This one's split in the middle, and you see down the center.
So like all this kind of.
This is scrap.
So basically, if somebody,
Piled it quickly out of the way, and except these 8x8s. These are not scrap. These are heavy beams we're making for other people. And I know they weigh about 250 pounds a piece. Right. But as you can see, I've been using them for riders here to put the lumber on. But that's all one person's order. It's going into somebody's house.
And what's that green thing? Is that like part of?
It was here when I started the mill up. I had to look at it, but it's better to sell it for scrap iron than it is anything else.
To try and
don't work.
Recover it.
It costs more than what we can buy a used one for. And in the winter here, to cover coming there, we can walk this way.
They're
No problem.
good traction, but not very.
You see the blade, that would just come down and chop the logs to the exact length they want, like 16 feet, and then the trucks are norms.
You mean the rail on the roof there?
Yeah, you see the two gables?
Yes.
Well, what happens, at this end is our resaw. It's 11-inch width blade, and then the other end's our head saw, which is a 12-inch blade. And so what we do is, rather than drag the blades through the mill, because they weigh up to 150 pounds, and we can't let them touch anything because they'll damage the teeth. So we have our little railway that comes in, and it goes back in there and just goes right to the saw. So we can change a blade in like five minutes. Oh, let's say 10 minutes. So looking at the wood, this to be a number, probably a 3 or 4. But see, when you see a black knot, that puts it into a 3 category right away. If you see a brown knot, it's fine. It's not going to come out. The black knot is telling you when you put it up somewhere, it'll pop out.
Eventually it'll fall out.
Yeah.
And then for select 2 or better, you want like no knots, or?
Well, you can have little knots like this one here. Part of it, let's see, you see the large knots? If you ran it through the edger and made it say this wide, there'd be 1 or 2 little knots, and that would become possibly a select or a number 1. Well, that's a little bit of what we call bark mulch. Come and take a look at it.
Thinking it's a permaculture.
Do you sell it or give it?
Well, how much do you want?
Truck or 2?
I don't care. See the loader? It takes a pretty big bucket. Oh, you'll see it in a minute. This is just coming off the debarker here, and then as the pile gets bigger, we keep putting it out here because it stacks up pretty fast. As you see with the rain, we've got our own mud yard now. This is all the West. Don't buy it here. American made comes in duty free. There's no taxes running on it.
On farm equipment?
Yeah, as long as it's for agriculture. If it's North American made, there's no duty whatsoever.
Okay.
So this is where we debark. There's quite a control console up there. Now if you notice the windows out of the door, what happened, Mario went into the control to start up. I tried to turn the diesels on, and then all of a sudden you saw someone coming out of the door and literally leg riding the rails to the ground and running. And inside was a big hornet ball about that big. He managed to get away from it. It was up inside.
Oh, jeez.
So I took the window right out. forget opening the door. He's a big guy.
He came through the window.
Right through the window. Forget trying to open the door. He went straight through the window and his legs were over the rail sliding down. Well, he had one bite. He was lucky.
Yeah.
See, that's all mulch off the debarker. Now, when they put this in, there's a few little design errors I've got to this summer. I'm going to take that conveyor. I've got some on the other side of the berm. I'm going to bring the conveyor out about 2 feet this other side, lower it down a little bit and extend it out further. Then I won't have any more of this trash dropping down where it is right now.
Okay, I see, yeah. And then there you can't really get in to clean it up.
That's the problem.
So
we're also covering this in the summer.
Right.
So we don't have a snow issue.
Where is it?
So the deal came up and Jeff said grab it. So we grabbed it. And but this thing is built like no tomorrow. It's not like the average farm truck at all.
But that's excellent because then you can keep the wood in there. How big is it going to be, Alan, once you put it up?
72 by 100.
72.
It'd be 38 feet to the peak inside. I'm putting it up on 4-foot risers. And the reason for that is because you see the slope going up here. What I want is by having it, say, 4 feet down here, that means I can get up here to 12 feet before I really run into a problem. So I can get 3 stacks of lumber, because they're 4-foot stacks. So I can get up and not worry about it, but also the loader can come in and clear through the door.
Right.
But it means I can stack closer. Otherwise, I'd be stuck down to here because of the curves.
Yeah.
And the boiler, it's been fairly good. We have a few improvements to do to it, but that's part of the course. Now looking back over there, our property runs right back. See that power pole way back?
Yes.
Well, that's the end of our property there, and it goes way off into the corner over here. And we own most of this bush here. There's, maybe 20 feet of it on the right-hand side belongs to that house, but the rest of it all the way through is ours. It's all red pine, but we're not going to cut it. We're just going to leave it.